Hello, my name's Paul, and I had total hip replacement surgery about 3.5 months ago. All throughout the process, really everybody's been great. The doctors, the physical therapists, the nurses, the anesthesiologists, my friends. Since then, everybody's been getting a lot of questions. Oh, about this, about that, I thought I would share my experiences, and maybe help people in a similar situation having hip problems. Give you some advice, maybe some useful advice, maybe something would click. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm just a regular guy. Had a hip problem. Got a new hip. And I'll say this. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. I suffered. I was suffering before the surgery. And it wasn't fun. Not fun. So anyways, I put together some notes and I thought, I could share some of my experiences and maybe this would help you if you're having some problem like this, or, maybe in the future, or maybe you know somebody. So the first, I sort of split it into phases. I have some notes here in my lap. The first phase is kind of the front end, leading up to seeing a doctor. The pain and discomfort, I don't know, my experience with physical pain and problems is that they usually resolve themselves in time. And that has really been the case. I'm pretty active. Swimming, cycling, hiking, yoga. Those things kind of put your body to the test. And you suffer minor injuries all the time. You strain a muscle or whatever, and, usually it corrects itself. Well, the hip's not that way. Now, the hip's kind of a one-way street. Once it starts deteriorating in the joint, it's not going to regenerate. It's going to get worse. And so the first phase is really from going from, got a little pain in my hip, to actually seeing your doctor and starting to work with your doctor. And, I tend to be in denial. I'm like, oh, this will probably just go away. Well, no, it didn't go away. And it's like, well, I don't know, going to the doctor is kind of a pain. So, I put it off. And finally it's like, okay, got to go to the doctor. So I guess the whole thing is when you go to the doctor, a process starts. So the sooner you go to the doctor, the sooner that process starts. And if it's going to get worse, it's important to start the process sooner. That sounds blatantly obvious, but mentally you're like, oh, it's going to get better. Well, it didn't get better. I spent too much time sort of in that mode when I should have gone to the doctor sooner. So that worked for me. Denial doesn't work. So that's one thing on the front end. If you feel your hip, maybe your knees, I'm not too familiar with knee surgeries or anything, but you should start thinking about getting to the doctor sooner. Okay, so the next phase is once you go to the doctor, the initial medical response. They sent me right down same day, get x-rays. They looked at the x-rays, and actually this kind of was a complicating factor for me, was that the x-ray looked good. We don't see any, just minor wear, nothing too unusual. And I'm like, well, it hurts. So the next phase is they send you to physical therapy, which, is like the answer to everything, right? And the physical therapist right away, she hiked my knee up and bent it to the inside, and it was like, that hurt. And she said, oh yeah, it wouldn't show on the x-ray because it's on the back side of the ball joint. So anyways, I did the physical therapy. They gave me this regimen. I took it very seriously. I did all the exercises, and I noticed a little improvement, and again, you get into that wishful thinking phase. I thought, oh, maybe this will get better, Yeah, it didn't. So after a while, you know, I just got back to the doctor and said, look, PT's not working. And they said, oh, okay, well, next step would be the cortisone shot. And I thought, okay, well, that's fine. I got the cortisone shot. It lasted for about a week. I mean, I thought it was a miracle, and it lasted for a week and a half. And it was painful again. So I went back, and we discussed, we'll get to the next phase, is actually meeting the surgeon. But, I probably stuck with the physical therapy for too long, too. I just wanted it to be better. I didn't want to, who wants to get surgery, right? Oh, that's one other point I wanted to add is all these things take weeks. You call it, the doctor said, oh, the physical therapist. Well, you can see them. That was pretty quick, I think, a week or whatever. Seeing the doctor for the cortisone shot, that was like 2 to 3 weeks. Everything's 2 to 3 weeks, And then I think the surgeon might have actually even been a month out. So finally, we're like, no, cortisone's not working. They're like, okay, you should probably talk to the surgeon. So I went and talked to the surgeon, and that really starts the time clock. Once the surgeon reviews your case and looks at it and says, yep, you're a candidate for the replacement, the clock starts ticking. Okay. Yeah, ticking. It took me 7 months from meeting the surgeon to the time of the surgery. It took 4 months before they would schedule it because they were backed up. I mean, there's so many people that need this surgery now. We're all living older, active lifestyles, that kind of thing. So it took 4 months to schedule it. And then they said, okay, we'll schedule you. It'll be up to 3 months. Well, it was exactly 3 months. So it was 7 months. And I have to tell you is that, I mean, that's just the reality is, apparently there's only so many surgeons. It's a big, it's a process on their end. I mean, they got stuff they have to do and, prep, you have to do prep and all this crazy stuff. And so that's the reality that you got to deal with. And it wasn't fun. And I'll say this is that, well, I forgot what I was going to say there actually, but, oh, well, that's the thing is the sooner you get started on this, like you can back out at any time. Like say if you're anxious or afraid to have surgeries, people are that way, I can understand it. It's a big deal. And, so some people don't want to have the surgery, but, get the process started because you can back out. In fact, the day of the surgery, you got to sign off on it, that you understand it, you understand there's risks, this is what you want, this is your desire, and you're going to go ahead and do it. So, now obviously, you don't want to leave it to the last minute. That would kind of screw a lot of people over and not be very, you wouldn't be a very good citizen or patient. But, you can always reschedule or even cancel it at any point. So don't be afraid. Get that process started. So the final thing I wanted to talk about, let me see, I might have missed something there. I did. Okay, so I'll edit that out. But the final stage thing I want to talk about is the recovery. First off, everybody was great. I mean, actually the whole process, everybody. And, you do the recovery, the people come out to your house and, they review, your living situation and, give you pointers and suggestions and show you what you can and can't do. And it's all very important and it's all very worthwhile. And I was totally impressed with these people. Most of them are, well, much younger than me, but just how dedicated and knowledgeable and helpful they were. So let's see. So here's another place where human nature kind of takes over. I kept. Okay, one thing actually to back up just a little bit. When you tell people you're having hip surgery, it's funny. It just people come out of the woodwork. Oh yeah, I've had that. I've had one buddy. He's had both hips done. He's way younger than me. A friend came over, and new friend, and he said, "Oh yeah, he had his done in his 50s. He was 53 or something. It was a genetic thing." So, anyways, people start coming out of the woodwork with their experiences and stories and such, and you're all, I'm all apprehensive about it and concerned, and so people tell you different things. Some people say, "Oh, it's going to be 3 months recovery," and some people say, "Oh yeah, one of my yoga teachers said 30 days. I'm like, "Oh, 30 days, Finally, we were out at this dinner, and somebody I never met before, and she said, "Oh yeah, my friend," this woman on the other side of the table said, "Oh, my friend, she had it, and she was back to normal in 2 weeks." No, I don't think so. You still got the staples in after 2 weeks, and no, I just don't, plan on it being months. And again, I think, for me, it's been 3.5 months. I'm still not 100%. I still feel it. Going upstairs is kind of difficult. But I've been doing a lot of things. I mean, I've been swimming, hiking, walking long distances, that kind of stuff is all really good, fine. I've held off a little bit on the cycling. We live on a hill, so going up a hill, I'll get to that. I could do that now, I think. It would be a good time to get back to that. But yeah, don't believe those rosy predictions, because I don't know, not my experience. And then, of course, now, you're at 3 months, and they say, well, it can take 6 months to a year. So you're thinking 2 weeks, to a month, and, now it's 6 months to a year. So I guess, so the takeaway is that in this day and age, you have to drive your healthcare. Okay. And that starts it's literally just going to the doctor, and I sort of facetiously say complain early and often. But, it's up to you to drive this thing and to get back to them and say, look, it's not getting better. I want to keep this moving forward. And I made those mistakes up front. And I'll tell you, probably about 3 months, at least, leading up to the surgery, I was suffering. I'd get up and it was like, oh, just like pain walking around. And, I guess if you complain, I just took ibuprofen, acetaminophen, Tylenol. I mean, I guess if you complain loud enough, they'll give you something stronger. But, I'm not really into those kind of drugs. And, you'd be doped up all the time. So anyways, point here being is you got to drive your healthcare and try to shorten those initial stages of denial, shorten that down. And it would have saved me a whole bunch of time, less time being really suffering before the surgery. So I think that's it. I hope that maybe you got something out of this. If you're thinking of having that surgery, I mean, again, remember, you can't waltz in there and say, I want my hip replaced. It's a process. And it's a lengthy process that you can shorten up a little bit. Yeah, you can, you can shorten it up a little bit. And it's worth doing because, the suffering part is just not where you want to be. Okay. Well, thank you. And if you have any comments, just write them in the comment section. Good luck.